Are you thinking about doing some garden design? Maybe you want to change the space or rework some existing part of your garden, but maybe it feels overwhelming. You don't know really where to start. I've got some tips on how to make it easy to start drawing up some of your own plans and getting some of your own ideas on paper so you can start to visualize and plan for the types of garden spaces that you want at your house. So I want to share with you a bit about what I've learned about doing some scale drawing, and I'll go back inside and do some examples as well. And be sure to stick around to the very end. I'm going to show you how I go from a blank piece of paper to a garden drawing. For this project where I'm looking at designing some of the space behind me and over here, this space off of our deck, I'm going to do some measurements of the back of the house, of the deck itself, so that way I know where these are and I've got some accurate measurements, and so that way if I do a drawing from overhead, I already have that planned out and I can start to map out where some of the rest of these areas are in relation to the house. So I've got a sense of scale when I start doing my drawing. I need to find some other objects in the yard to plot on my plan. Could be a structure. It could be a structure if you have a shed or an arbor or a fence or something like that. It could be, it could be a plant. In this yard, there's really nothing behind me. That's one of the challenges here, is that because this is such a blank slate, I don't really have anything. It's just an expanse, which is also one of the problems and why we want to do something with this. I'm going to pick a few things, probably trees in the back here, to basically anchor to, so that I know where they are in relation to the house, and then I know how much space I have, basically between the house and the back of the yard. So what I need to do is I need to pick some places on the house to then measure out to the objects that I have picked. All right, and so for each object, so the trees or the well cap, I need to pick 2 places on the house that I'm going to measure from. And I will show you when we go back inside on how I take those measurements. I can plot those on a piece of paper and have them in scale in relation to the house. Now I'm bringing the measurements that I took outside and bringing them here into the studio, and I'm going to transfer those measurements onto my paper, and then I can start trying to come up with some design ideas. All right, so I'll quickly run through the supplies that I'm using. So I'm just using this pad of drawing paper. It is 14 by 17. You certainly can work with whatever paper you have. It's just keep in mind the size of the paper, of course, is going to ultimately dictate what your scale can be. All right, and then just run through some of the other materials that I have. I would say, in terms of what you absolutely need, certainly a pencil, a ruler, and a compass is also going to be useful. Also an eraser. That will also help. So I think if you start with these and the measurements we took outside, we're ready to jump in and start doing our design drawing. A couple other materials I do have a pen. That way I can put in, where I have something that's a permanent structure, I can put that in. I have a few other pens as well, some micron pens of different thicknesses that I can use if I want to. I've got some crayons. You can use crayons or colored pencils or markers or whatever you have on hand. I've got a couple of stencils here. So the ones with the circles, this is really good because I can use these to give indication of how much, give indication on, what's the size of, a tree or a shrub that I might want to put into my design. So for example, if I was doing, my scale was going to be 1 inch equals 5 feet on my drawing, and I come in here and I've got a, see here, I think it's, yeah, this circle here. This one's 1 inch, and so that's going to tell me if I draw that, it's going to be a 5-foot diameter plant that I might be putting in. The first thing I'm going to do is like I said, I'm going to decide on the scale, and I think for this project and the size of the paper, my scale is going to be 1 inch equals 5 feet. I'm going to probably try to simplify some of the design. This is not necessarily going to be an exact architectural drawing of the back of the property. I just want to have a little bit of fun here. I want to make it simple and easy for anybody to kind of pick up and do and play with this. So this will be the back of the house. The backyard is going this way. On the right hand side, this is where the tree line is on the property. There. So that starts to kind of look a little bit like a deck. All right. So then the next kind of piece to this is fixed. And now I know this is where this is. So now I got to figure out, well, where's everything else in relation to the house? All right, and I've got a tree. I don't really know what the canopy of this tree is, but it's a pretty... I'm trying to look out the window which tree this is. I think it's a white pine, so... That's going to represent a tree. And then I've got another tree that's kind of straight back here. This kind of gives me a sense of, because these are kind of right on the edge, so if I can freehand this a little bit and kind of say, okay, this is what the backyard kind of does, and I know it comes out around over this way. This is kind of what we're dealing with. And of course, if I want to, I can color some of these in even, just to give some color. I'm using crayons. You can certainly use colored pencils. And it doesn't matter that I don't know what these are, because for us, this is, there's woods behind here. There are woods in the back of our house, so that's what this is all just trying to kind of represent. And I'll pick some other colors as well. Okay, well, that was much more yellow than I thought. I don't have any yellow trees like that. I don't really even have to do this, other than the fact that I like it. I'm kind of annoyed about that color, though. Oops. What are you going to do? All right. I like this yellow. What's this one again? Should have tested them out on a scrap piece of paper. That would have been the smart thing. I've kind of now basically have my basic plan here. And I can, as I start now trying to do, think about what design elements I want to have and what things might look like, what I can do is I could take some tracing paper and a light box, put that, and then trace on top of this. So this becomes kind of the master, and then I can make copies of it. And that way I don't have to like redraw this, or I don't have to erase everything after I do it. Certainly if you did that and later on you wanted to trace over parts of it, you certainly could do that and just leave out the parts that you want to be able to change in your next version. There we go. That looks like. So I can show you what that looks like. So I've got a light box. I've got a. It's not a. Yeah. And what I can do is. Sorry, I've got a lot of chords happening here. So I can put that there. I could put another piece of paper over top of this, and then I could trace this, and that way I can use this paper as my master copy and just replicate this to other versions if I wanted to do that. If you had a scanner, and depending on how big of a piece of paper you have, another thing you could do is you could take this and put it on a scanner, so you have your master copy and print it out, and then you can draw on as many versions as you want. So there's different ways of doing it. I'm just going to work with this one right now. So the first, there's actually three main areas that I'm looking at, kind of designing and trying to think about what we want here. The first is this section here, kind of in the middle. I want to have some sort of outdoor kitchen and eating space right in this area here. So that's one area that I want to work on. Another area is over here where we want to put in a stream. And then the third piece is doing something in this area to better connect the deck with the garden, the vegetable garden, getting to the driveway and out of the garage to the door that's over here, and also then connecting it again into this space. And this also then starts to become kind of like a central hub in a way. The other thing too, I guess there's a fourth piece that I want to consider, and that is, what are we going to do along here? Because right now, as you can see, this kind of implies there's nothing and then trees, and these are all very, very tall trees, and so we want to try to bring the height down a little bit visually. So you're not just looking at a wall of trees. You got the trees, and then as your eyes go down, you've got another layer, and then even further down, maybe another layer. So trying to kind of bring the forest closer to the house and bring down the height as well. So I know that I want to have, let me kind of use some of these here. All right, so I'm gonna look at this area. I know there's a couple things that actually I know we want to be able to do. So in this area here, I want to be able to have, I want to use some planting to screen under the view going under the deck. Also, by request, I think we want to want to construct some ponds. That would be here as well. And then I think it'd be great to then have some seating. Yeah, so these can be like pond planters, and they're going to be raised up. And so between the planter itself and the plants, well, between the pond and the planter itself, and then the plants, that should provide some good screening. This to me is feeling like this is going to be a space that is a square, and I'm wondering if that's what I want, or do I want this to be more circular? That could be cool. Hold on. Maybe not that. And then what this does is this kind of like picks up this corner and comes along like that, which I like. Because to me, I like the idea of doing something here, like planters with pond, and like these are rectangular shapes, and having that then sit within something that's a more less structured, less formal, maybe less contemporary kind of idea. I think that could be kind of cool. So this kind of defines this space. Now, what then that allow us to do is we can put some planting in here and behind here. Now, we do need to be able to get from here into this and here into this. And so it's almost like I want to have another space like this, but have it here. So kind of like it mirrors, well, not mirrors, but it kind of complements this. And these would be like main plants, and maybe I'd have just some other stuff in here as well, because you want it to still look, I think, nice when you're looking at it from this side towards the house. So that's what that can kind of do for you. Kind of creating a natural path through here along what might be kind of a stream. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. I hope maybe you take a look at some areas in your own garden and think about doing some of your own color drawings as well. And let me know what projects you're working on this summer. Leave those down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're all up to. Until next time, happy gardening, happy designing, and I'll see you later.